I have been a crazy man in my life. I did a lot wrong. Like a lot. I don't even want to go over it because it's way too hard. Some things will pop up in a little bit in this whole conversation. But trust me when I say I was a handful for my mom. Let me tell you that. Now, most of these things, they started because I was bullied, right? We know the story, eczema, they got bullied. That's why I didn't have a lot of attention. And what do you do as a kid if you don't get attention? Well, you try to get it another way, which is most of the time a negative way, and then you get attention. So, for instance, I was caught when I was, I think, 15. I was already twice caught for burglaries. And it was a total of, I believe, 142. So that was when I was 15 years old. So, that's how it started. Thankfully, when I started getting older, the eczema started going away. I got accepted by more people. And then, of course, all the bad behavior started going away as well. Now, I was the class clown. So that meant that have seen a lot of different schools. My poor mother. All the time, I got kicked out of school. And then I had to look for a different school. Now, I don't remember a lot from when I was a kid. And the reason of that is because I took insane amounts of medication, which later we found out was affecting my memory. So once we stopped that medication, everything started to come back. But one thing that sticks out really, really vivid is the scene that I had when I was 10 years old. And I was sitting in the classroom and I was looking outside the window and I was mesmerized with this tree. And I heard the kids laugh and I heard the teacher scream, but I just blocked everything out because the tree was everything to me. And suddenly he shouted, "Rutan!" And I go, "What?" He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm looking at that tree." He goes, What's with the tree?" I go, "Where did it come from?" And he goes, "Idiot, they planted it there." I go, "Yeah, dude, I understand that. But if you go to the tree before and the tree before, you go all the way back. Where do trees come from?" Now I'm going to let you hang with this story because it's going to come later back. This is crazy, okay? So my mom and my mom and dad and family, we were all Catholics. I was baptized, I did my confirmation, I was named after a badass saint, Saint Sebastian, but around the age of 12, 13, they decided not to go to church anymore. I don't know what for reason, but there was no more faith for the Rutan family. Now, I'm going to normally talk about what happened as 14 and I knocked the guy out, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to jump forward to that. I'm going to go to the age of 21 when I started Thai boxing at one. And I loved Thai boxing. It was something that I really enjoyed doing. I wasn't an A-class fighter yet, I was B-class. I started with beginners, C, B, and A-class is pro. Won 9 fights by knockout, 8 in the first round, 1 in the second round. And then I stopped because a few times I was preparing myself and nobody showed up, or they would show up and then if they would see it was me, because that was before the internet, they wouldn't fight me. So I thought, this is stupid. I decided to become a bouncer, started bouncing, started doing another whole bunch of plethora of bad things when you're a bouncer. I mean, drugs, women, selling drugs to buy drugs, you get drinking, bad situations, everything is bad. But I was drunk and when I was bouncing, somebody asked me if I wanted to fight Frank Lotman, apparently. I don't remember anything from that conversation. So about, I'd say, 2.5 months later, I get a phone call. And I said, "Hey, this boss." He says, "Oh, so." I go, "Where do I send the posters to?" I said, "What posters?" He says, "From the fight." I said, "Who's fighting?" He says, "You." I said, "I'm fighting. Who am I fighting?" He goes, "Frank Lotman." I said, "The Animal." That was his nickname. Like 43-0, 39 or 40 knockouts, Animal. That's hence the nickname. I said, "When did I say that?" He goes, "Well, New Year's Eve." And I started thinking, I go, "Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I did see the guy." And I started picking up a little bit of that conversation. So I thought I was a man by accepting the fight, which was stupid because the fight was less than 3 weeks later. And I've been a bouncer. And as a bouncer, at 5 o'clock in Holland, where I worked, that's where the club stops. And what do? You go to the after parties. And how do you stay awake? What do you think? Right? Drugs, alcohol, everything goes wrong there. So I wasn't in shape. I didn't train at all. I had 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks to work out. I got tired from rope skipping the very first week. So that's how bad in shape I was. I should have never fought. Needless to say, I lost that fight. All right? Then I fought another fight, and I also talked about this in the past, but I'm going to put it all now in one conversation because then you have a better picture of why my life changed so much, because I needed to get a hold of myself. And another fight against a French guy. I did drop him in the first round, but there was this new rule because I gave him a back fist like this. I missed with a hook, whoop, and I came back with a back fist. He went down. They were counting him out, but it was an illegal move apparently because that was just implemented. You had to do a back fist with a complete turn. Needless to say, I couldn't fight because I was so messed up that I couldn't come out for the second round. Then I had a third fight, my last one, and that broke out in a brawl. Everybody started fighting because this guy was biting a hole in my ear. I started shouting, telling him to let go. He didn't. I load up a knee. I asked him again. He didn't do it. I need him in the pills. He went down, hit him in his face. Everybody started fighting, the whole audience. I mean, it's hilarious when you see it. Somebody threw in a chair. It landed on Cor Hammer's back. Cor Hammers from Mang Ho. That's where I used to train. And it fell behind me on 4 legs. You see me in the middle of the ring. I'm going to try to fight that footage. I've been talking about it before. And while everybody's fighting, all my guys, all the bouncers are fighting all the guys that he brought. There were a whole bunch of Hell's Angels as well. So there was a big brawl going on. And you see me looking back, and I see this chair behind me. I sit in the chair, and everybody keeps on fighting. Then the referee came to me, and he says, "Why would you do that? Why would you knee him in the pills?" I said, "Well, he bit in my ear." Then he looked at my ear, he goes, "Man, he bit a hole straight through it." So he grabbed the microphone and he started telling the audience what really happened, and that calmed everything down. But anyway, people always talked bad about my Thai boxing. They forgot about my first 9 knockouts. And of course, you know, I have to admit also, I wasn't a very technical fighter. I was very technical in the gym, but under pressure, I didn't have it figured out yet. I was just very powerful, just knocked them out. So, okay, but still, as a fighter, you know, and you're knocking people out, you get like to hear some pluses, but if people are backing you down, you don't want to do it anymore. So I didn't do it. I started doing martial arts comedy. Those crazy shows, we pumped up bodies, we started doing power training, spandex on, and we started doing these martial arts shows. It started in nightclubs. Midnight, light would go out, everybody was quiet, suddenly the stroboscope, and then we came up with backflips and boom, 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 and we would do these choreographed fight scenes. And we started adding comedy to it, and suddenly it became a hit. And then we start traveling. We started doing it at the Thai boxing shows in the break, and to other shows we do it in the break. And then suddenly we start going through Europe, and we start doing it on European shows, European TV, Eurosports, and then the Dutch TV. I mean, it got bigger and bigger, and it was a lot of fun. And on one of these shows, there was a guy named Chris Dolman, and Chris Dolman was the godfather of mixed martial arts. He stopped me, and because I would come up with backflips and somersaults and all that stuff. And he says, "Boss, I see you doing all this crazy stuff. Maybe it's good for you to start free fighting." Free fighting? What is free fighting? Well, you guys know the whole story, right? I went out, did a tryout, got in the scuffle, knocked the guy out, blah, blah, blah. I'm fighting, suddenly I'm in Japan. Now, free fighting was all fun. It was a lot of fun. Won my first 2 fights, lost by submission. Won a few more fights, lost by submission. Then I won a few more fights by knockout, lost again by submission. I got fed up with it, told myself to, you have to know the ground game. Because if every time you're going to lose, well, you can become a champion one time, but you know, you can easily, they can snatch the belt away from you again because you don't know what to do on the ground, you idiot. So that was it. I forced myself to do it, and I fell in love with it. I became obsessed with it. You know me about the whole story. I don't want to go over it anymore, but I never lost a fight anymore. Now the crazy thing was that I never believed when I was fighting that I could be a world champion. It seemed too hard for me, you know, to become a world champion. I mean, these American guys, they were so much ahead of me. That's what I always believed. But once I started studying the ground game, and then I started rolling with some of the Americans at the Pancras Dojo over in Japan the days before the fight, I realized I was way better than I thought I was. I thought they were here and I was all the way at the bottom, but there I realized, wait a minute, I'm tapping these guys. I never expected that. So that was the moment when I came home and I told my wife, you know what? I think I can be a world champion at this. That made the whole change. So I attacked fighting as I attack everything in life. What I'm trying to say is I attacked submissions as I attacked my striking. Once I make that conscious decision to go full into a fighting career, that's when I became really good and I never lost a fight anymore. And when I'm talking like this, I always tell them, you know, if I can do it, you can do it. You know, I just put a lot of work in. Yes, I have gifts and I'm athletically very good, but I'm not super gifted. And I'm also not below that. So I know I'm good, but I'm just that good that at least I know that I need a lot of stamina. You know, because most of the time when you have a super gifted athlete, they kind of school everybody in the gym, you know, and then when they fight, and they fight a tough guy who has a lot of stamina, they lose because they don't have the stamina enough. So thankfully I never had that. You see, we always reasons. And what I will say is this, you know, if you're a fighter who's not gifted, right, but he has to work really, really hard for it, dude, I know some guys, I don't want to mention names, although I asked them in the past if I was okay to say that, but they became even UFC champions. And guys like that, like if I pick something up, like say in an hour, and for them it takes 3-4 hours to do the same thing, you know, guys like that are the hardest to beat because they had to work really hard for it. That's why, you know, we always are giving our gifts in certain measurements. Whatever is appropriate to you, that's how you're going to get that gift. Now, when I was in Japan, all the crazy stuff that I said before, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, all that stuff, that started to go away, right? Everything started to go away. The only thing that I would be in was drinking, drugs, and it would be probably fighting, but never started the fight. It was always when somebody would beat somebody up, a smaller person or a lady, or when I would jump in and say, hey guys, let's stop, and then the fight was returned to me, and then of course we would fight. Or, you know, on the street, just a knucklehead who wants to fight, always try to avoid it, but you know, eventually once they put your hands on you, well, you're allowed to go back. But I was stupid also in other things, you know, judging, saying stupid stuff about other people, making comments, gossiping, like stuff like nobody really should do, but we all do it, right? It's stupid. And when I say we, I mean that's me included, of course. I'm always talking about how you say rumors. So somebody comes to you and he knows a rumor about somebody that you don't like. And he says the rumor, and now you're going to start telling that rumor to everybody else without checking it, and you tell it as it is the truth. And the problem is also this, we're so full of pride, everybody, that once somebody comes to me and says, hey boss, that story that you're telling, it's actually not true. I mean, I did my homework, look at this. We get angry. We get angry about it that that person has the cojones to say that we are wrong while we are wrong. So this is really important. So once I stopped my career, I had a lot of things that I needed to work on. And the first thing that I needed to work on was alcohol and drugs. Because once they grab something away from you, you can't do it anymore. You do it in front of 15,000 people. You knock somebody out, you put somebody in a submission. That's a really good feeling. People go up, they're standing, I mean, cheering for you. It's a great feeling. Once that's taken away, where are you going to get it? So most fighters, most athletes, most musicians, everybody who's been like on the top, or close to the top, and suddenly it starts fading away from it, they start to replace it with either drugs or alcohol or both. And I was, of course, both. And again, like I always said, people are sheep. And when I say people, I'm a people person, right? So I'm a sheep as well. We all do it. But thankfully I started working on it because I saw it. I come back to it later. And it is way less than now than it was when I did it all the way back. Now, we are so full of pride that, for instance, when you say hi to somebody and that person doesn't say hi back, you get offended. That's pride, guys. There could be 100 reasons that person doesn't say anything back. Could be, what is it? Could be very introvert. What is that? Agoraphobia. You know, doesn't want to come out of the house, but had to come out of the house. Maybe somebody died in the family. Maybe somebody is very sick. Maybe that person feels sad. There could be 100 reasons that they don't say anything back. But no, we have to hear them back. You know what I would do in the past? I would say to somebody, hey, good, how are you doing? If they wouldn't say anything back, I say, oh, I'm good, thanks for asking. What a dumbass, right? Who does that? But that's our pride. That's why I do these things. It's like somebody, you hold the door open for somebody and that person doesn't thank you, you get angry, that's pride. Car backs up, he doesn't see you, you start yelling, that's pride. Like you never make a mistake. Come on guys, everybody makes those mistakes. But no, how dare they do it to me? Because if it's directed to me, it's bad. Unless of course, it's the other way around. Everything is me. So once I stopped fighting, I was still me. And especially as a fighter, when you stop fighting, think about this. Everything is about you. You know, you're by yourself in the cage or in the ring, wherever it is, and you are fighting. You're the one who's doing everything. And especially with me, I never had a coach in fighting. I'm a manager in the corner. That was it. He would tell, stay calm, relax. That was the only thing that he would say. Breathe. You know, that's it. He didn't know any techniques. I was just going with it. Now, I was after I stopped fighting, I still, of course, I still wanted to do things in martial arts, so I started teaching. I became a teacher at the gym. I became a teacher for the Special Forces, for the Marines, for the Elite Special Forces, for the military, Homeland Security investigation. I mean, a lot of different, LAPD, law enforcement in general. I've been teaching a lot of people, and of course, fighters as well. I also started commentating for the Pride Fighting Championship, started doing a little movie here, a little movie there. Then I started having a TV show, video games, Grand Theft Auto, I mean, you name it. I was doing it, and all the while, I was drinking and using drugs. The one thing though I never did, and please, you have to believe, I don't care actually if you don't believe me or not, because I know it's not. I would never do it during a job. You see what I mean? So the night before, yes, I could have been drunk. Doesn't really matter. On the day of the job, I never broke that rule. That's a very important thing that I want to bring out there, because that is how you lose a job actually, right? By doing something wrong. Now, and although I'm always a happy drunk, you're still stupid, you know? If you're home dancing with the kids, you're not a real father, you're not a real husband, you're not a real man, right? And what is a man? Well, I'll go over that in a little bit. So, from 2002 till 2006, I had a spirit, a ghost attacking me in the house. Yeah, I know. And it was really weird. It would be like in the middle of the night, I would wake up, I would hear something, and then suddenly I get pushed in the bed. And I know, a lot of people are going to say it's sleep paralysis. It's not it. Because what happened was, I was awake, first of all, I could look around, and if I wanted to sit up again, I got pushed back, and now I was locked in. And my arms still could move, but I couldn't feel the person. There was something sitting on me or spread out so even, only on my chest, like my foot, my leg. I tried to put it out of the bed, which I could, and then I tried to pull myself out. It wouldn't work. It was so much pressure on my chest that it started to suffocate me. And the only way to get out of it was getting mentally very aggressive. And then I would scream, you know, at the time it was a lot of profanity, that's where I started with. And then my wife would go, is it again? I go, yeah, again. I would challenge the ghost, it would never come back. One time I went to the restroom. I'm always sitting down in the middle of the night, you know, so I don't have to flip the light switch on, because otherwise you pee all over the place, you miss everything. So I'm just sitting down, and I see my wife walking to the kitchen. So I thought she's probably going to get some water. And when I went back to bed, she was in bed. Well, I saw a person walk in the house. So I get my weapon, go to the house. Nobody's in the house. There's two more coming. This is the biggest one, I would say. I came home around 9:30 with the whole family. We've been out for dinner. And I opened the door and I felt something is in the house. Somebody is in the house, I thought. And I told my wife, wait, let me go in the house. I have a bad feeling. I feel that somebody is in the house. So I gave her my phone. It was one of those old StarTech phones. You remember those things? 911. I say, hit send if you hear something, but don't worry, I know where the weapons are. It's going to be okay. So I'm walking in the house, and it's an open kitchen on the right. On the left, there's a dining room area, and in the back, there's the kitchen. And it's divided by a wall. And I thought this person was on this side, in the dining room. And this was the open kitchen that went to the kitchen in the back. Now, from the dining room to the kitchen in the back, there was a doorpost where a very thick curtain was hanging, instead of a door. A very thick curtain hanging there. Now, like I said, I thought the person was on this side of the wall. So I started walking here, making a lot of noise, hoping he would do the opposite, and then I would make a U-turn, and I would catch the guy, right? So I started sprinting, I come around the corner, and while I come around the corner, I see the curtain fly up. Like, not move, fly the freak up, right? So I kept sprinting because a person just ran through it. But there was nobody in the house. And yes, don't worry, the windows weren't open, and there was not a Category 4 hurricane going on. People go like, maybe it was the wind. Yeah, it was the wind that made the curtain fly up against the freaking ceiling. No, it was not the wind. So then I decided to do an exorcism myself. I had no clue. What is an exorcism? Why would I know that at 3 a.m. is where the demonic activity is at its peak? How would I know that? I had no clue about the faith. Nothing. Well, 3 p.m. is where Jesus passed away. 3 a.m. is where all that crap is at its peak. Somehow I knew, and I went to the dining room area. That's where that curtain flew up, and it was also cold always there. And then I just start challenging the ghost. You know, I say, listen, if you want to do this thing, make yourself physical, do something, let's fight. Don't be a sucker punch, whatever you are, you know, that's an easy victory for you. If you're really tough, bring it down to my level so we can do something physically, and let's go at it. And I just kept doing it and kept doing it. I think for 45 minutes, an hour, I've been just going crazy against that woman. We found out later, that's what I believe, because it was a woman who passed away in the house. Now, what I also need to tell you from that is that I think it wasn't bad. She wasn't bad. I think because the kids who saw her, my oldest daughter here, she could describe what she looked like. I mean, that's how vivid she would present herself. And I was the only one that got attacked, so to say. So now I'm thinking, because I was drinking heavily, that she said, hey, she was slapping me around. Douche, you have this beautiful family here. What are you doing? Stop drinking. Well, that came in 2006. Somebody asked me, get a phone call, Jeremy Lappin, my old manager, where I still have a good friendship with. He said, hey boss, we're starting this organization and we want you to fight. And I said, sure, who do you want me to fight? He said, who do you want to fight? I said, Hickson Gracie. Why Hickson? I go, because he's phenomenal. And I just want to see if I can test my ground skills against this guy. You see, people always thought that I didn't like him. It's the opposite. I just respect him a lot. You know, that's why I would like to see if I could stay out of his submissions, because I saw, well, Choke and the documentary from him, and the way he slapped on freaking triangle chokes, and his movement is like, whoa, it's nearly perfect. And it's a very hard thing to attain perfectness in fighting. But he was up there. But he said, no, he's too much money. What about Kimo Leopoldo? I said, Kimo Leopoldo? He goes, yeah. I said, I just hang out with him in Japan like last month. We went out, partying, had a good time. You sure he wants to fight? I'm okay with it. He says, no, he already said yes. I say, he said yes. Yeah, okay, good. I'll fight him. You know, I know there's no personal feelings. But what I didn't know is that they told Kimo Leopoldo that I specifically asked for him. I go, why would you do that? Oh, just to hype the fight a little bit more so he doesn't like you. I go, okay, whatever. I'm not going to say anything, because if I'm going to say something, then he knows. And if I don't say anything, well, then he's for sure going to train harder, which is going to make it more interesting, of course, for the people at home. So I took that fight to stop drinking, because my wife said, you're completely crazy. I said, no, I'm not crazy. If I take that fight, there's no way I can drink anymore. I have to stop. Okay. So I stopped drinking and I started preparing for a fight. I won the fight, everything was okay, bada bing, bada boom. And then after the fight, okay, now what? Boom, that's when I started doing movies. My drinking was a little bit more under control, but still I would have these bursts where I go crazy. Drug use was way less, but it was still hanging there as well. I had to watch out for that. I got a very addictive personality. I always want to do things that are crazy and scary, and you know, and all that mixed up together, well, you know, kind of sets you up for things like that. So what I always say, an addictive personality is great when you're like a fighter and you steer it the correct way. Because if I go, oh, I go. You know, but that same application I do to drinking and drugs. If I go, oh, I go. 1 is good, 10 is better. You know, that mindset is just a very bad mindset. That's why you never see me gamble, because it's really bad for me, because I would lose a lot of money. So now go fast forward, and I'm in 2014. I'm shooting a movie in Las Vegas. And a friend of mine is asking me to sit on the set in the break, and he says, hey, we have somebody coming in and he's going to talk about how the world came together. I go, oh, that's interesting. Now, if he would have mentioned the word God or Jesus, I would have said, you know what, I'm up in my room, I'll see you guys in an hour and a half. But he didn't. He says he's going to talk about how the world came together. You can sit, smoke a cigar, drink a Coke, hey, outside at the Wynn Hotel, in the sun, Viva Las Vegas. So I said, okay. And the guy started talking about, the first line he says, the leaf fell from the tree. I go, that's a weird way to start. And he says, that leaf just reached its end destination. Let's backtrack that leaf. And then he goes back to the branch, and then he goes to the tree before, and he goes to the tree before, and he goes to the tree before, and he goes back all the way back. And I'm sitting there and I go, I know this story from somewhere. What do I know it from? And then I realized, oh, that was when I was 10 years old. When God planted a seed in my head, he says, hey, you don't know what you're going to do with it right now, but watch. In about 40 years or so from now, it's going to come back. Like 35 years, it's going to come back. And boy, did it come back, because once that person, Leo is his name, started backtracking the trees and eventually getting to a freaking 100% proof of the very existence of a designer Not even talking about God, but God is a designer. That was like, okay, this world didn't come by accident. This world was created. Okay, so now I knew, and actually all my friends who were there as well, who also weren't in the faith, that, well, this was a creation. Now, people can go over there, and I don't really mind. We can do that at a different time. I'm not going to talk about this right now, why, and give you examples and what I believe. All these experiences that I had with the ghost attack. Oh, I forgot a really big one, actually. After my last fight, we bought from the money, I bought a different house, like literally a quarter mile up in the same neighborhood, but it had a pool. And after the first night, I asked my girls how the first night was, the first night of sleeping in the new house. And my daughter, who slept upstairs, said, it was nice, but I had a visit from 2 boys. Mind you, this is after I got physically attacked, see the person, fly the curtain up, after everything that I experienced. Like, this is 4 months, 5 months later. And I said, whoa, what? I said, you mean spirits? And she goes, yeah, spirits. I go, honey, you're not freaking out. She says, no, one was playing on the bed the whole time. And I asked him finally, could you stop? Because I would like to go to sleep. And he stopped. So I'm looking at my wife. I go, this is crazy. I'm running down, go to the computer. On the computer, I Googled, did something ever happen in my house? Well, in 2001, 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, went through our wall. And 2 boys died. And when I asked my daughter how old, 16, 17, she would say, well, it was a 16 and a 17-year-old boy who passed away. I'm looking outside, I'm walking outside, I see where they repaired the wall. So that all combined with the spirit, with the attacking, with the curtain flying up, with the seeing the person, all these things started coming to life right now. And then, of course, when Leo started talking, Leo fell from the tree, started backtracking the leaf, and that story I already heard when I was 10 years old, everything started falling together, and I realized, okay, this world is not what we think it is, I think this is like a precursor to a better world. Here we have only like 80, 90, if we're lucky, years. There's going to be forever. So, okay, let's start focusing on that right now. Now, the thing that we have as people, we always tell people what they should do while we're doing it ourselves, right? So, I immediately thought that I had it under control. You look at the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not do this, all these things, they're easy to do. Thou shalt not murder, got it. Who's going to murder people around? So, in your mind, you're already thinking, oh, I'm doing it really well. So then you start telling others who don't believe, you start telling them what they should do in order to become a better person. So I freaking wasted my entire life with doing crazy stuff. And 4 months into the faith, suddenly I believe that I have the knowledge enough to tell people how they should react. You see, but that's pride. That's pride. And thankfully, I caught it. There's a funny interview that I had because they found out on iHeart Radio, they found out that a UFC champion got back to the faith. So needless to say, I got a phone call if I wanted to do the conversation. I had this great interview, but I didn't really knew a lot about the faith yet. And the very question was, do you have a fear of God? Fear of God is staying away from created things in order to get to Him. I'll explain that in a bit, because right now, and especially if you're a non-believer, you go like, dude, whatever. But even if you're a non-believer, everything I'm going to say will apply to becoming a really good person. So don't worry about it. I'm not going to try to sell you to the faith. I'm just going to tell you what had happened and what happened for me. So he said, do you have a healthy fear of God? And I go, nah, I don't. That's pride. Like, you can be super advanced in the faith, you always have fear of God, because He sees everything. Whatever you do wrong, He knows. You see what I mean? But I already thought, oh, the 10 Commandments, that's easy. I got it under control. But then you start seeing the little pride things. Now, first of all, the one thing that I said, that I was telling people how they should live their lives. It started when I was reading Matthew, the book of Matthew. And this is the one. And don't hook up. If you're an atheist, please stay, because I just want to throw you the line. Just make it a different book. Because it's so much sense, because it applies to everybody. Because once you see this, you go like, crap, I'm doing this. Because we all do this. So what it says, why do you try to remove the speck from your brother's eye while you have a wooden beam stuck in your own eye? You hypocrite. Why don't you remove the wooden beam first so you can see clearly, and then you can try to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And I go, dude, that guy is me. I mean, telling people what they should do. I would be drunk every night, and if somebody said, oh, I have a problem with drinking, I would explain to him how we needed to stop drinking. That was me. You see? Pride, 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 pride. Big eye-opener. So why do I really want to go back to the faith? And you go, okay, well, I want to be, like Matthew Kelly would say, who's also a public speaker, is also an author, I want to become the best version of myself. That's what I want to be. I want to make sure that I don't do anything bad to clean up my life. But I knew that it was going to take a lot of work. Because every time when I took one step forward, it was almost like I took 3 steps backwards. Now I have to say also, we're reading this book with the whole group that we have. It's called Divine Intimacy. And every time when you read a chapter, every day you read one chapter. And you go like, dude, I'm so far removed from it because it's very hard. And thankfully somebody explained it to me and says, boss, that book officially is for priests. So don't worry, they have to be way stronger than you, but you can light up a little bit. But it's hard, you know. Then again, as I did in fighting, to become really good, the only way to do it is to dive into it and to make sure that you know it. So when people say to me, what kind of Catholic you want to be, I'm going to first talk about that. I always give them the same example. I had a conversation with this 23-year-old kid. It was a shouting match. This kid was doing what they do a lot here in America right now. And he's telling this story actually with his dad present there. So unbelievable that his dad didn't even say anything because, oh, he can do it. They didn't care. They said in California, if you steal under $500, you can simply get away with it. They cannot arrest you. So when they were younger, because he's 23, but they were younger, they would steal a lot. Now he knows I'm a Christian, and since he thinks he lost a conversation with me at one time before, he still needed to get back at me apparently, and he started shouting at me that his friends who were Christians were the worst. They were the worst. They would steal the most. He's shouting at me because he needed to get back at me. So I'm telling him, I said, okay, so then they're not practicing Christians then. And he goes, no, they are because they go to church, I go, that doesn't have to do anything with anything. I mean, that's saying that if you come to my gym once a week and you walk around in my gym, you look around a little bit, you're a professional fighter. Doesn't really work like that, right? Maybe you got to go and take some classes. Oh, wait a minute. Yes. And then you're going to have to learn those classes. And you got to keep practicing them. And you got to repeating them constantly. Now you got to clean up your life. You can't drink, you can't do drugs, you're womanizing, forget about it. You have to live a perfect life. You can't go to parties anymore. All that stuff you need to cut out, and you need to only focus on training. Do you think that will make you a fighter? And of course you can't say no, because that is. And that's how I approach the faith as well. You see, people go, yeah, there's bad people in the faith. Yes, there is. But it's a small percentage. But this is how people are, right? All cops are racist. All blonde girls are stupid. All military guy kills babies. All lawyers are criminals. I mean, all athletes are stupid. I mean, all Muslims are terrorists. They come up with if a small percentage is bad from a certain group or whatever you want to call it, suddenly everybody is bad. And this is wrong. It's very simply wrong. And even when people did some wrong, it doesn't change the fact. It doesn't change the message that we heard all the way from the beginning. If you look at the two biggest the commandments, right? They would say, okay, if you're an atheist, forget about command number 1, because that is love God above everything else, with all your heart, all your might, all everything, right? Forget about that one. But number 2, treat thy neighbor as thyself. If we really would do that and work hard on that, treat thy neighbor as thyself, you think we would be in the crap that we're in right now? That's what I want to listen to. And just because bad people showed up, even worse, how the church handled those bad people, I mean, I understand. Horrible. But it doesn't change the message that I want to follow. I just want to follow the message. I want to be, again, just the very best person that I can be. I want to be a real man. A real man. Yeah, let's talk about what a real man is. This is my line that I always say. I want to be a man who can overcome his weaknesses, vices, and imperfections. A man who's not a slave to his passions, emotions, or desires, but a real man who is in control of himself. Now, when you when you really think about that line, a real man who is in control of himself. That's the guy who is the designated driver who takes 2 drinks and then says no to the 3rd one. He feels a tiny little buzz, he really wants it, nope, he's going to say no. That's the guy who's happily married and a girl presents herself and much younger and cuter and all I want to do, he says no to that pleasure because it's going to steer him away from becoming a good person. That's a real man who's completely in control of himself. And right now in this world we're living in, we really need to be a real man. Or a real woman for that matter, because we are all distracted by everything else and we're just repeating what other people say, especially if it's a person you look up to and he says something. Doesn't matter, you don't have to check it, just go, present it as truth to everybody else. No, don't be like that. Because once it happens to you, they attack you and me as a known person, not a famous, but as a known person, that happens a lot. That people twist my words and suddenly I get all these attacks. And I don't like that. And since I don't like it, I'm not doing it to other people as well. That's the great thing that I got bullied as a kid. Because I got bullied, I didn't like it. And guess what? Because I didn't like it, I'm not doing it to other people as well. When you go all the way back, when you really think about these the Catholic Knights, those real ones, and again, yes, there's always exception to these rules, but it's a very minority. I'm talking 98% of these guys, they were so badass. They were such a freaking warriors. They put their wives on the pedestal, their kids, they're the best person they can be. They're always there for their family, being perfect. What about that? And then being able to defend yourself. But no, nowadays, everything's going down, right? I've been talking about it many times. Pills for everything. I want to lose weight. Pop a pill, do it. Cholesterol. Pop a pill. Blood pressure. Pop a pill. Sleeping. Pop a pill. Oh, I can't handle the situation. Drinking or popping a pill. Dude, nobody wants to fight anymore. Nobody attacks the problem anymore. Because if you attack a problem, guess what? After you attacked it, it's not a problem anymore. But if you put it away with pills and all that crap or band-aids putting them on it, it's not working. It always comes back. And it gets worse. We don't even want to go out of the house anymore. Because it's too easy to call on the phone. They bring the food to us while we're playing the video games and being non-productive. Is there a time to play video games? Of course there is. But what about making part of society and helping everybody out there? And then in your free time, you go do something. Work. How good it is to work. Imagine, I always tell this, and I might have talked about this before as well. Imagine you always win a fight, even without training. Would you really like it? To keep winning? That's not a good feeling. No, you need to train really hard. You have to watch out what you eat. You can't go to parties. There's a lot of things that you cannot do. And then you get an injury. You have to work around those injuries. And you're going to still fight. And then if you win, when you win, then you're really happy because you worked really hard for it. And if you lose, well, that should inspire you to train even harder. Or you quit. You do that, whatever you want to do. If you want to be a quitter, be a quitter. But you see what I mean? So like in fighting, in the beginning, I thought I couldn't be a world champion. And then once I started fighting and understanding it, I realized, wait a minute, I can be a world champion. Now the first 7 years back to the faith, trying to be a saint? Dude, that's far removed from me. I thought I could never be a saint. But now, I'm getting closer. Do I do a lot bad? Yeah, I still do bad things. I will never say I'm a perfect guy. Not even a good. But I work really freaking hard. And the bad things that I do, listen, I'm already feeling bad if I drink 2 glasses of beer. After 2 or 3 weeks, I drink a beer and then I drink another beer and I go, shit, I shouldn't have done that. So I'm very hard on myself because if I told myself I'm not going to drink 2 beers, but I drink 2 beers, I can't stand myself because that's the same as I was in fighting. If in fighting, I would say today I'm going to do 10 rounds on the back after a workout. If I would do 9 rounds, I can't look at myself in the mirror when I brush my teeth. I see a freaking loser who didn't do what he said he was going to do. So I started cleaning up my life. Why would you use profanity? That was the very first one actually. That's why I'm always wearing a rubber band here, you see? That's why they call me the rubber band man. A lot of my students have a rubber band. Every time you say a bad word, just do that. If you don't feel this the first 2 times, do it 3-4 times in a row. Trust me, you can be a professional fighter, you will feel this. It's going to hurt more and more. And then people go like, what? Is there something wrong with profanity? I go, no, if you want to use it, be my guest, it's okay. But why would you stop us? I say, why wouldn't I? Do you really need profanity in order to make yourself clear? If you really break it down, yeah, but sometimes it's really good to put a big F-bomb in there. Well, then do it sometimes. That's okay. I just can't stand people who do it 3 times in every sentence. I was walking off the street and this F guy said to me, I said, oh, F you, I'm going to F you up. And I go, do really? You know, you take the whole power out of the word. You know, if you decide to do it. I don't mind, you know, but then do it at a moment that it's really necessary. Boom, okay, now it makes an impact. And it's cool, it's like a movie, right? You want to do it at the right moment. But there's a lot of other things. It's girls, right? Listen, I'm 58 right now. I'm toned down, you know, but oh, she's hot, oh, she's hot. But now I start thinking, what do you gain by it? And what if your partner would do it? Do the same thing. What would you think? Would you enjoy that? Kind of not, right? Kind of hurts a little bit. So once I start realizing that, I go, I don't even want to do that anymore. Because if it would make me mentally stronger or smarter, whoa, sign me up. But there is nothing that it will do for me. You tell me, what's it going to do for you? Other than having bad thoughts. Thoughts that maybe are not good if you're in a relationship with a woman with a person that you love. Oh, it's good to look at. You don't look at it and that's it. But once you start going over it in your mind, I think it's not a great thing. So right now, I always tell myself before I want to do something, an action, or maybe I want to say something, is this what I'm about to do? This is what I say first to myself, and then I'm going to explain it for the atheists also, okay? Is this what I'm about to do bring me closer to God? And if the answer is no, I probably don't want to do it. What is God? God is the person who wants the very best for you. He wants you in perfect health, mentally shape, in physical shape, and He wants your soul to be perfect. The strongest, the best, that's what He wants you to be. So, for the atheist, what you say to yourself is, what I'm about to do, is that going to make me smarter or mentally stronger? Or do anything positive for me? And if the answer is no, maybe you shouldn't do it. Like what? Well, we're so full of pride. Why would you go online with a fake account and start answering, making comments to people who have a different belief system than you? Why would you do that? You should see the people, if I post something about the Catholic faith, who are freaking attacking me. This is also a fun one. Well, then you can see how stupid people really are, dumb people really are, because they didn't check anything. So I have this Catholic talk that I'm doing in Wichita, and I posted about it like 2 weeks before, and of course I get the same thing with the bad priest. I always get the same thing, and it's okay. So one guy said, oh, I was a big fan, first of all, big fan, but now I unfollow. Ugh, yuck. That's what he said. So, well, you should never assume, but I assume the yuck is, of course, the bad priests. You know, there we have. And so I decide to click on him. I click on that person. It goes to his Facebook page. And he's got a beautiful 2 young girls, and he's got a little baby girl, and it's his wife, and you can't see anything about him. And then you see, and I don't know if it's his tattoo, but he has it as his, you know, when you open the page, this is where it is, it's Baphomet. Baphomet is a demon. Now, let me tell you something about the Satanists. When you read their Bible, it's a different story. So he says ugh to the 1.7 to 1.9% of the bad priests out there. I go into that story in a little bit. But those are the exception. With what he supports, it's the rule that you physically hurt them and that you sexually abuse them. You have to. So it's either 1.7% or it's 100%. But then the 1%, that the 98% who are good, that's ugh or yuck. But what he's supporting, I don't think you even know what it is. You know, but you invite that evil in your house with your daughters and your wife. I wouldn't do it. And I understand. Now you can be an atheist, you can jump up and just say, yeah, but it's not true. Yeah, okay. I wish that you were attacked by a spirit like I had, because then you feel it. I actually did that talk in Wichita I was just talking about. Father Matthias was there, and he has a special part of the churches where they do prayers over people. And it's a focus group where they do it. And you should hear what he has to say. People in wheelchairs walking up. People born deaf can hear, born blind can see. I mean, while they're praying on him. Like, it's insane. And this is with doctors backing this up, right? Saying, oh no, I treated this person for the last 34 years. This is impossible. That stage 4 cancers, they pray over the next day, gone. And like going on and on and on and on. Yes, there is something out there. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. Doesn't make it untrue. You see what I mean? The thing is this with atheists that I talked about, by the way, a lot of atheists, and I'm talking about over 90%, they all turn very faithful at the very end of their lives. It's also a proven fact. So with atheists, when they come to me and they say, well, what if it's not true? What if there's no heaven? What did you do? I said, then I was the very best person that I could be on this planet for the last part of my life, and I helped the most people I could do. That would have been my legacy then. And at least I leave that behind. He goes, okay. I said, no, that's not okay. But what about if it is true? Then I'm going to go to a very nice place, and you're not going to go to a very nice place. That's the difference. And why, even if it's not true, why wouldn't you try to be the best person that you can be? And not for yourself, but for others as well. This is important, right? So hold back on your pride, you know. That was a big one. When I came back to the faith, holding back on my pride. You know how I figured this thing out? It was that I was driving on the freeway. Normally somebody cuts me off. I get aggravated. And then one day, my buddy was driving, I was driving shotgun, and somebody cuts him off. He gets angry, and I'm saying, for real, I say, relax, dude, he's just a dumbass. And I started laughing. And then I stopped laughing, and he looks at me, he goes, what? I go, dude, this is crazy. He goes, what? I go, oh man, it's pride. He goes, what is pride? I go, if I'm driving and somebody does it to me, I get angry. But if you're driving and I'm sitting next to you, I think it's funny. So I'm thinking that guy personally attacks me, Bas Rutten. So that means that the guy would drive on the freeway, and he goes like, oh, that's Bas Rutten's car. And he starts to chase me, and then he cuts me off just to get to me. You see how stupid we are thinking. It makes no sense. And you know, we get angry about that guy. Don't get angry about that guy. Because that guy might just had a phone call that his wife is in the hospital. And that's why he's speeding. Maybe he could be like a Nobel Prize winning physicist. You don't know what this guy is or what happened to him. So always step back. If you don't know the situation, always step back. So pride. That's the biggest one you're going to have to attack. And I give you an example of what happened with me at a podcast that I recently did. Because let me first talk about how alcohol works, right? I'm an alcoholic. So every time I get back to drinking, it happens the same way. And I guarantee you, all addicts out there, because if it's with alcohol, it's with everything, it works exactly the same. So imagine you decided to stop drinking, and now you're 3 months in, and you think you have it under control, because that's our egos. Now we have it under control. So this weekend, you promise yourself you're going to drink only 1 beer. And you drink that 1 beer, and you stop. And the next day you wake up, and you go, see? I have it under control. That's the hook. And then a week or 2 weeks later, you go, hey, remember 2 weeks ago? I just drank 1 beer, I have it under control. And you do it again, boom, what do you know? You still have it under control. And it happens a whole bunch of times. But then suddenly, there's like a party scene, and some old friends are coming, and there's some memories coming back, you know, and you try to go to 2 beers. And then maybe that 2 beer, or the 2 drinks, whatever it is, it might give you that little tiny buzz, and then off you go, and everybody's back to what they did before. This is most of the time how it happens, right? So with me, it was with pride. And like I said, it's the small things in pride. I'm not walking around, Bas Rutten, 4-time world champion, won my last 22 fights. You know, I'm not like that. You know, I have my moments, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like that. It's the little things. The person who doesn't say hi back or doesn't thank you, things like that, you know. Thankfully, I work those out. I don't even look at them anymore. If I let somebody in traffic, I don't even look if they thank me. Because if you do it for a thank you, you're not doing it out of love. Do it because it's the good thing to do. That's why you should do things like that. So I was invited to this podcast. Now, normally on the podcast, by pride, you know, because I'm a talker, you know me, I always talk. I don't shut the freak up. I keep on talking. And I've been doing that my entire life. So it's very hard to hold back, because otherwise pride comes out and I come up with the stories again. But, you know, I dose it down. Maybe during an interview, a regular podcast, I give one story and then I stop. I specifically tell myself that I have to stop doing that. Then you have to understand, for the last 2 years, every time, I would say 3-4 times a month, I get a message through social media from a person who wants me to go back on a big podcast like a Joe Rogan and talk about those crazy days that I had some fight stories, because they always enjoyed it. Now, let's make it 3 people instead of 4, right? Over the last 2 years, that will be, give or take, 70 people, 72, but 70, let's say 70 people. There's 7.9 billion people on the planet. But in my mind, in my work mind, because I have it for the last 2 years, every month, 2 or 3 or 4 times, I hear it, I think, oh, they all want to hear the stories again, So now I went on a bigger podcast. And there was this story with the Russian mob, and I had a story about the Russian mob, and then I started telling, and suddenly, I started shooting into it. Now, I didn't tell these stories for a long time, but now the floodgates have opened. Same as what I said, you drink one beer, you drink one beer, you drink one beer, and boom, suddenly you lose control. That's the same with pride, it's the same with other, not physical vices as well. With anger, whatever it is, it's with that as well. And it happened with me, I started. Now I start suddenly not explaining everything anymore. I mean, there was a moment that I was dancing on stage somewhere, and that the bouncer comes, a bouncer slash mobster, who pulls me off, and I slapped him in the face when he did that. But I went too fast with talking. I'm not even explaining anymore. No. That guy got up, grabbed me here by the collar, pulled me off, kicked a fist in my face, and he's pointing at me, and that's the moment I slapped him. Hey, relax, you know? You see, but if I start skipping those little stories, people are going to think I'm a complete douche. You know, there's another story was there from a person, and I walked into it, and his brother was a bad person. But he wanted to step up for his brother. I didn't want to talk about that story anymore, because, you know, everybody said that that person was bad, but it was his brother, and I didn't want to say anything anymore. But there was another story with that situation that I never told on camera. But 2 years ago, I heard from a student that the person I'm talking about right now, in an interview, lied about that second story. So somehow, during this floodgates open, that story shoots out as well. You see what I mean? Normally I would have never told the story, but now suddenly I'm telling the story because I had to get back to him. You see, that's pride. Because he lied about, who cares if he lies about you? You should be above that. He should know, and you should know what's the truth. And that's it. But you know, that's our pride. We want people to understand that, no, that's not what happened. I just want to tell you the truth. So that's been my life, and I'm sticking to it, and it's a lot of work, guys. But I'm hanging in there, I'm trying, and guess what? If I come out on top, you do it with everything that you want to succeed. If you want to strive for magnanimity, that's a big word, right? I use it all the time. Excellence, that's striving for excellence. If you want to do that, you have to persevere, and you have to push, and you have to suffer. This is very important. Whatever it's sports, guitar, playing a musician, everything needs a lot of work. And that's the same what I want to do now. So I got back to the faith because I want to become the very best person that I can be to myself and to the people around me. And that's the reason I got back to the faith. And I got to tell you, all the drinking, all the drugs, all the crazy things that I have, all started going away. It took me freaking 40 years, but the last 9 years, that's when I came back, everything started to get cleaned up. Do I still need work? Oh yeah, I'm far removed from being a saint, but I'm getting closer if I really want it, because that's a lot of work. So I hope you can apply this to everything else in your life, because if you do that with everything else in your life, you are going to succeed. That's how it works. That's how the universe works. That's how you get rewarded. Hard work and dedication to it. So be nice, be good. Think about this family bracelet, right? This is the family bracelet. It means, forget about me, I love you. So that means, that's Jesus' message, man. Let's spread the love. Let's be good to others. Let's be the very best person that you can be, just like Matthew Kelly said. Godspeed, everybody. And party on in moderation now.